Yeah, cricket time now on the SportsMax zone. It was a better showing by the United Arab Emirates, but they could not stop the West Indies from securing the series with a win in the second one-day international at Sharjah earlier on Tuesday. Batting first this time around, the Windies were dismissed for 306. Their second score over 300 in 4 matches. Brandon King did not score consecutive centuries, but was again the best Windies batter with 64 of 70 balls. His opening partner Johnson Charles added 63 of 47 deliveries to earn the Player of the Match honour. Zahoor Khan had 3 for 44 for the UAE. The Caribbean men failed to dismiss the UAE for a second time, restricting them to 228 for 7 in 50 overs. Ali Nasir registering his second half century of the series, scoring 57, while Basil Hamid scored 49. 2 spinners, Kavim Hodge and Roston Chase, had 2 wickets each for the Windies. Let's hear from both captains.
Yeah, no, it's a crime to get out after getting a start like that. You know, last game got 40, this game got 30. So hopefully we get a big one next game and contribute towards the team success. Yeah, 100%. You know, we have an important tournament coming up in Zimbabwe, so a win will give us good confidence to go into the Zimbabwe tournament.
Right, yeah, well, at first I thought the conditions dictated what we'd do first. But again, happy with the start that we got. We're looking for the batters at the top to really set that foundation for us, and happy to see Kingy doing what he does best. Charlo also giving us a good start, so happy to see the batters doing well. We struggled a bit in the middle, but nevertheless we got to 300 plus. Yeah, the aim was always to try to keep getting wickets. That's the key. For us going forward as a group, the aim is to try to put as much pressure on opposition in the middle overs, whether it's with our spin or pace, but just unfortunately we didn't get those wickets there to see the deal a lot faster, but still happy with the performance from the guys.
Yeah, West Indies captain Shea Hope there. Fazir Mohammed now joins us via Zoom to review what happened in the match today, and maybe a quick flashback to the opening ODI on Sunday as well. Faz, welcome to the SportsMax zone. The UAE, the second lowest ranked team on the top 20 ICC teams in ODI rankings. Only Papua New Guinea are ranked behind them. So I'm not sure how you would be reading these 2 victories for the Windies over them.
Yeah, wins are wins, and the West Indies are in no position to really be complacent against anyone. As we were hinting towards the end of our discussion last week, the West Indies only have 2 wins in their last 16 one-day internationals coming into this series. But you're right to put it in that context, Lance, because it's about preparation for the qualifiers, which are obviously going to be a real challenge for the West Indies team. And yes, this UAE team has actually gone backwards since I last saw them really to any great extent 5 years ago when the West Indies were in that qualifying tournament in Zimbabwe once again. And yes, they are nothing like that team, which was far more competitive. This one clearly has 1 or 2 talented players, but that's the UAE's issue. For the West Indies, it's about being emphatic, being efficient, and while they would have certainly liked to get a total closer to 350, given the fact that they were 151 for 1 after just about 22 overs. Overall, I think the West Indies again will feel reasonably satisfied, but still, quite clearly, there's a lot of work to be done as far as the West Indies stepping up their game to compete with the best in the world.
Yeah, no complaints too much about the batting performances in both matches, Faz. But would you consider their inability today to bowl out the UAE batting out the entire 50 overs to end at 228 for 7, would you regard that as a letdown?
A letdown, maybe to some extent. Actually, I actually have a criticism over the batting. And again, it might sound extremely harsh to be criticizing a team that wins emphatically by almost 80 runs, scoring over 300. But given that platform of 151 for 1, I think the West Indies should have been comfortably pushing towards 350. And also the fact that, with the exception of Johnson Charles in the top order, they weren't scoring at better than a run a ball. And again, we're talking, Lance, about measuring West Indies cricket as where we would like them to be. Not where they are right now, not given the competition that they're facing, but the fact that if you were talking about the West Indies getting back to the level of qualifying automatically for these major World Cups, about being really dominant against these mediocre teams, you really want to see those batsmen, those batters at the top of the order, middle, even the low order, consistently scoring at better than a run a ball. But to your specific question about the bowling, yes, it's another issue where you want to see these bowlers really able to run through those batting lineups, or at the very least limit them to the extent where you see a lot of desperation shots being played. And it was almost as if, well, the UAE realized there's no chance of getting anywhere close to that 300 score, and they decided that they were going to take advantage of the opportunity, especially with Ali Nasir in that 7th wicket partnership, and you saw a bit of resistance there. So when you're playing tougher teams, higher quality teams, and you're going to bounce up a few of them in the World Cup qualifiers, you can expect that it's going to be much more of a challenge for the bowlers.
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to be as fair as possible to this West Indies team, fans, and also noting that there are a few first choice players that would not be in this setup because they would have been part of the Indian Premier League and they have been given the opportunity to rest for this UAE series. But I look at the UAE squad and I see 3 teenagers in that squad. I also see 7 players who are 21 years old or younger. And I almost feel this is a UAE squad of boys who the West Indies should be punishing. And yes, we've won the first 2 matches. It is 2-0 at this stage, which you would expect it to be. I am still not completely convinced by the performances. And I want to go back to a point you were making about the batting today. From a strong position, what do you think went wrong in the middle? Because we were in control on not a pitch that really was devilish. And it also looked a pretty small venue as well. And for your middle order to collapse in the way it did, that has to be a slight concern for the team.
It is a concern. And yes, the UAE, they're basically a glorified club team. That's what they are from what we are seeing. But again, you can only play against the opponents that are in front of you. And that point, that middle order, I think Casey Carty is a concern. He struggles to get the ball away in the middle order. Shea Hope has taken up that position at number 4, freeing up Johnson Charles at the top of the order. And again, it gives that opportunity for the top order to really get going, as we're seeing from the highlights that we're watching right now. But again, with Shea Hope coming in at number 4 nowadays in one-day cricket is not about consolidation. Even if you have 2 wickets down for 10 runs, it's not about consolidation, but it reflects the state of West Indies cricket, because the top teams in world cricket, even with 2 wickets down early, or certainly as in this case, with an excellent platform, that is the time to go into overdrive. And we didn't see that. You can't really say that the bowling was all that threatening. The pitch might be a factor because Sharjah is not really the sort of surface where it comes on, where you get even pace and bounce. But again, this might be decent preparation for Zimbabwe, because in Harare and the other venues that will be used for that qualifying tournament, the conditions won't be all that different because it'll be approaching winter, in fact mid-winter in the southern hemisphere, therefore it's going to be cool, the pitches might be slow and low. So you've got to get attuned to it. You've got to realize that if you really want to dominate the opponents in that qualifying tournament, when you're at 4, 5, 6, 7, it's not about consolidation unless you're in deep, deep trouble.
Yeah, given that point, Faz, I want to get your thoughts on the batting lineup and specifically Johnson Charles, who is at the top of the order, his second one-day international today since 2016, and the captain Shea Hope, where he is batting. Where's your ideal position to have Shea Hope bat? And do you think Johnson Charles is the man, not just for this series, but going forward in that opening position? And remember, we will talk about this in the context that someone like a Nicholas Puran is expected to be slotted into the middle come the World Cup qualifiers.
Absolutely. And that's a key point, Ricardo, because I don't see the point of a Shea Hope at number 4 if he's going to go at less than a run a ball. It works okay at the top of the order because he gives you that platform, and yes, again, it's generally a bit under a runner ball, but you've got other players in the middle order. So this is going to be a concern. We might get away with it in the qualifying tournament. We'll see how that goes, because some of those teams there, as we've said before, are really gunning for the West Indies. They see the West Indies a team they can knock over to get closer to the World Cup in India. But if you're talking about that situation, Johnson Charles at the top, and he's going hell for leather if he can. Sometimes he gets out to the poor shot, as we saw in the first one-day international. But then you've got Shai Hope coming in at number 4, and Shai Hope plays a particular way, although again, he does have that ability to really crash it about. But if you're talking about maximizing and capitalizing on the resources that we have, unless Shai Hope is prepared to go out much better than a runner ball at number 4, he has to go back to the top, maybe at Johnson Charles' expense.
Right, and Faz, today, we're talking about him batting at number 4, but today he actually dropped himself to number 6. And I felt as if it wasn't effective seeing him bat at number 6.
Yeah, and this is where the concern will be, Mariah, because, again, we are trying our best to put it in context. Yes, the West Indies have won comfortably. Credit to them. They've played well. They've done really all that would be required of them to get the better of the UAE. But the UAE are poor from what we're seeing. And therefore, if you're putting it in a lens as to what is going to come in the qualifying tournament, which is the immediate challenge, that middle order issue has to be sorted out. Because in the middle order, there's no consolidation anymore. Forgive me for sounding repetitive, because for a long, long time, there was always this phrase about the middle overs in one international cricket, where you consolidate before you go for the big push in the last 10 or 15 overs. Well, that's not the case anymore. Now you have the top teams going at better than a runner ball from ball 1, and even doing better than that in the middle overs. So by the end, it's a real mad dash towards 350 or 360, depending on the conditions and, of course, the quality of the bowling. So this is where you have to contextualize what the West Indies are doing right now.
Yeah, for sure, fans. And I just did a quick search just to look at the numbers for Shai Hope. Opening, he averages 60.74 and his strike rate is 79.32. Best strike rate and best average for any batting position. At number 3, he's averaging 37.24. The strike rate is just 69.10. At number 4, averaging 48.90. The strike rate 75.23. And at number 5, averaging 49, but the strike rate is 70.5. And today would have been the first time in one-day international cricket that he would have batted in that number 6 position. What would you want to see from the West Indies for that third and final one-day international on Friday?
An emphatic performance. I think the West Indies must have the mindset that, look, every match for them is virtually a final. They've got to get that in their heads, that no team should be taken lightly. They've got to realize that it's about pressing on the accelerator immediately, bringing out their A game from ball 1 and not relaxing, because any lapse in concentration could repeat itself at a vital time of qualifying. And we know what happened 5 years ago with the fortune of that match against Scotland, with the poor umpiring decision and the rain and so on. The West Indies don't want to be in a situation like that again. So if they haven't done so already, and I suspect they would have with the new dispensation, and even if it was the old dispensation, that they've got to recognize that every match is a virtual final for some of those fringe players as well, because with the IPL players looking to come back into the fray for the qualifying tournament, and who knows, maybe the World Cup itself, this is their showpiece, this is their opportunity, and Friday is another one of those opportunities.
Yeah, without a doubt, Friday is one of those opportunities. The West Indies, one match against the UAE to come on Friday, and then they go into the World Cup qualifying tournament. We take a break, but when we return, we'll be talking Test cricket, the World Test Championship final. Australia versus India from the Oval. It will be live on SportsMax starting at 4:30 a.m. Jamaica time, 5:30 ECT. Fast stays with us for that discussion after the break.
Stay with SportsMax on YouTube and follow us on all social pages for updates, news and entertainment.